Well, hi, everybody. Let's all just take a deep breath. That's what I want to do. I've been rushing around this morning trying to get here, and it's been well, I'm sure everybody's got lots going on these days. Anyway, here we are. This is Soul Empowerment, episode 31, and our title today is Your Soul Really Empowered? My name is David McLeod. I am your life mastery coach and author of the book A Life to Die For, and I'm delighted to be here, even if I am a little out of breath. So I'm now going to invite my co-hosts to introduce themselves, and I'm going to go around in the order that I see people. And first up on my list is Nancy. Nancy, say hello.
Hi, I'm Nancy Stevens. I'm honored to be a part of our Soul Empowerment today. I'm a longtime member of the Wellness Universe and have had the joy of being an author on 2 of the Wellness Universe Guide to Complete Self-Care books. I work as a kind of a well-being lifestyle coach and presenter. I really enjoy anything to do with self-care and well-being, and how we can all strive and really care for ourselves with love is my jam, and that's who I am.
Thank you, Nancy.
You're welcome.
And next in my circle of amazing friends is Christy.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, just good life. Hi, I'm Christy Borst, and I reside in southern Maine, and I work locally and also globally, and I guess universally, with emotional healing and transmuting denser energies, both for the collective and one-to-one with people. And that may be showing up as anxiety or disease or just feeling stuck in your life. I use a kind of, I would say, similar to Reiki, but it's my own. And anyone who does Reiki really has their own flavor to it. Mine I call perspective reboot because of the shifts that can happen for people. And I'm so happy to be talking about this topic today.
Awesome. And I'm glad you're here too. And last but certainly not least, Sarah, would you please introduce yourself?
Well, hello, I'm Sarah Jane, and yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, because it's evening for me. I'm in the UK. So sort of, and folks, welcome to the program, because what do? I do lots. I work with a technique I call vocal Reiki. So yes, as Christy just said, a lot of us have our own unique version of the basic energy of love that I believe Reiki to be. And vocal Reiki is toning the use of the voice. I also am the founder of Gift of Healing TV, and we share. In fact, there's going to be a program straight after this one. We share interviews, exercises, meditations, also conversations. Today's conversation and thoughtful nuggets and pearls. So yes, I'm involved in lots of things, and I think, as with everybody else, I work locally and I work globally. The joy of working with energy healing.
Oh, awesome, and thank you for being here, Sarah. I cannot claim to work universally like Christy does, but I do work, with people all over the place. So wherever they're coming from, maybe they are universal. Who knows? So here we are talking about this topic of, is your soul really empowered? Now, when we had our conversation about this, I remember, I think I said something like, we're coming up to the 2nd year. This is the 24th episode. And I completely messed up there because obviously this is episode 31. So we decided to have a kind of a celebratory thing, but I figured, what the hell? We can have a celebratory episode anytime. It doesn't have to fall on a particular day or anything like that. So it's a perfect topic for us to discuss because, this notion of soul empowerment is something that might be confusing to people, and that's why we really wanted to talk about this in more detail. I mean, a question that comes to my mind when I hear that phrase, soul empowerment, I mean, is it even possible to disempower the soul? I don't think so personally, but I think we can create scenarios in which this empowered soul may not be the prime focus of our lives. And that's really what we're going to be talking about today. So who would like to jump in and share, a perspective on soul empowerment, what that really means? And anybody can start. Oh, I think Sarah would like to go.
I agree. Can you disempower your soul? So, because I was thinking about this and I thought, isn't it more a matter of us empowering ourselves to listen to our soul? And so the soul empowerment is, and okay, everybody has different beliefs, different understandings of why we're here. And if you've read the books Conversations with God, then it's because our soul chooses to have different experiences. So yeah, can we disempower our soul? No, I don't believe we can. Our soul has chosen to have different experiences, and this physical form of ours are those experiences it's chosen to have. So is it about soul growth, soul learning? But it's not, yeah, so maybe that is empowering. And how many of us have been here so many times that our souls experienced most of it? So that was my thought that came, was that actually it's the empowerment of the physical self to step back to the soul that knows everything anyway. So maybe it's the soul empowerment of the physical.
Nice. I like that.
Mm.
Christy, you look like you're ready to pause
Yeah,
there.
so I do think that we can feel disempowered. We can experience life disempowered, and we may not even know that we're disempowered because we are fragmented to some extent. There's parts of us that are hiding because they're wounded. And one of the things I've really kind of uncovered in my own journey in this past month is really taking a look at the 4th of July, which for us in this country is about independence, and looking at my own sovereignty and am I empowered? Am I sovereign? Am I really free? And what I bumped into or discovered was what I like to call a program. And what I mean by a program is something, a belief that was seeded in me as a child that has resulted in part of me hiding, part of me being disempowered. And that program is about shoulds. You should do this. You should act this way, you should whatever. For many of us, that plays out in different ways. And what I realized was, as I was running this program of should, mostly just, to kind of put it in context, but in relation to my birth family, it was denying me of the choice of what I want to do. So that's been a very powerful, painful, healing experience that I've been transitioning through.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Christy. Nancy, I know you've got something on your mind there. Why don't you share?
Okay, I will. Well, I've just been resonating with you, Christy, and with you, Sarah, as well, as I, moving into the space of, soul empowerment. Are we disempowered? I really resonate with both of what both of you shared, that maybe we are in process of connecting our physical body to the soul that we've been given, in this lifetime. But then with you, Christy, it's also maybe about healing a disconnection or connecting with. I really resonate with all the shoulds, right? I need to do this, I should do that, I better. It's all of this stuff as if we're not living, like we're placing all of the shoulds. I need to act this way. I need to have that, and letting that run the show for us. So there's so much wisdom between what both of you shared about connecting and processing that which we've had input in us, from who knows, before we were born on earth. So very rich topic indeed got uncovered in here.
It's yeah, I find it very, very fascinating myself. I personally believe that the soul itself is never disempowered. I believe that what happens is, and I think, Christy, you alluded to this when you talk about programming. The programming, I think, I see it as, we've got this soul that came here, as Sarah said, to experience a whole bunch of different things. But in order to experience all these things on this planet, we had to take on this physical form. And this physical form includes an ego mind. And it's the ego mind, unfortunately, which I think tries to take control and tries to drown out the voice of the soul. The ego mind gets so powerful and so noisy in our heads that we start to lose connection, or we believe we've lost connection with the soul. And of course, we haven't really lost connection. It's just that we got volumes of competing things, and the soul is always at the same volume, but the ego gets really, really loud in our heads. And so what happens is it's the ego that's telling you should do this, or you should do that, or this is wrong, or this is right, and it criticizes you and all this stuff. And it's doing all this, by the way, under the guise of safety. It says, if you don't do what I'm telling you that you should do, then you're gonna experience some kind of pain, and that pain, nobody likes pain, right? So the ego mind, in its own immature way, is trying to keep you safe from some pain that it imagines is going to happen if you don't abide by its rules. And that's kind of how life seems to operate for all of us. And it really takes a big effort, I think, to, first of all, to understand how the ego mind works, and then to find ways of quieting it down. Because the moment you quiet it down, it seems like the soul is getting louder and louder. Well, that's not really true. The soul is just at its constant volume. And what's happening is now you're drowning out the noise and allowing the signal to come through. And that's what I think soul empowerment is really all about. Because the soul is fully empowered in every way. And when we open ourselves up and give ourselves permission to quiet and tame and reduce the noise of the ego mind, then we automatically open ourselves up to the beautiful wisdom that's already there. And that means we empower ourselves to show up in a whole new way. So the soul empowerment may just be about empowering ourselves through our soul. Just a thought.
So I'm kind of giggling over here because sometimes spirit shares funny things. So as you were just saying that, David, I started hearing, pump up the volume. Pump up the volume.
Yeah, there you go.
I have no idea what song that is, but somebody was rapping it to me.
Nice. That is I really like that perspective, David, that I think we underestimate or just are not aware of how huge the ego mind is. We've heard, we've had so much programming about the shoulds, need to, want, I better, I need to have this, whatever that we believe until we have a moment that that's the truth, that dialogue running through our mind every day is the truth, helping to guide us, keep us aware, quote, safe, secure, when it's wanting to keep us safe, but it's masking, because we may not know the essence of who we are, that we can really only find when we realize that and just turn it down, way down. I mean, I can't tell you how many years I lived with my ego taking over, telling me, I better do it this way. I need to do this. I'm not good enough. Well, don't you think? Questioning, prodding, push, all of that. dialogue. So that's a really key element that you have brought up.
Yeah, I think so.
There's, for me, because of my insecurities, absolutely, it was constantly being so afraid of what everybody was thinking about me, being scared to do anything different, just in case, just because of what other people might be thinking. Do we all really have to go through a massive wake-up call to suddenly understand that actually none of that stuff is of any importance at all? But a lot of us do end up by going through, and it has to be something pretty big, because we may get nudges, but we don't listen to nudges.
No.
Right.
Not until you get to a certain extent, to a certain place, and then you suddenly think, is somebody trying to tell me something here? I don't really want to go any further with this, sort of, because the wake up talk, you've only got to listen to so many people out there, some of the big names and the things they had to go through to get to where they are today. And so in respect to the soul empowerment, if you like, that was the soul saying, right, had enough of this, however you want to term it, you're going to listen. And so maybe the soul empowerment is about that empowerment of self, that being able to let go of that programming, because it is programming, even if some of it has been done by ourselves because of our insecurities.
Right.
It was a learned behavior, and they can be so destructive. And every now and again, I say to my mind, excuse me, you're meant to be protecting me from pain, and the only one hurting me at the moment is you. So when it goes off on one, and
that's right,
because I believe that its initial role was to be our protector, to keep us safe. The thing is, I am now an adult. You have taught me well. So can we change your role, please? Can you help empower my life, empower my choices, rather
helicopter parent, or the overprotective, guardian.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I'd like to, I guess, share a little bit about reprogramming and, maybe a couple different perspectives on this, this programming and the ego. So if we are here, as I think some of us would believe, to experience separation, to experience not knowing ourselves as one with all of life, with all of love, then the ego mind is part of that scenario, that we have to have that filter, if you will, to experience separation. I kind of see that Garden of Eden story with the tree of knowledge is getting out of the heart of knowing we're love and getting into the mind, and that takes us askew. But there's also, I think, this opportunity that we've been given, and why as souls we came here, not to suffer, not to be, wallowing in separation, but because we had the stuff it takes to shut down these programs, to have the freedom of time that generations before us have not had, to read, to have self-reflection, to whatever. And so if we start to look at the programs that are running us and maybe starting to own a little bit that we came here to help shut them down, then we can kind of see more that they're just self-sabotaging who and what we came here to be. So I find that a very powerful tool in shutting down some of these things that I know are just holding me back.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think first of all, I really like the notion of the word program, especially given that I was a software engineer for so many years. And what I can tell you is this program is a pretty buggy one. It's got lots of bugs in it. Overall, I think it does what it's supposed to do, but I think it backfires in many ways, and it doesn't always respond to inputs in the right way and so forth. And this is why, we can see it as a program. We can see it as an erroneous program, something that needs to be upgraded for sure. And I also like your concept of we came here to experience separation, or whatever word you use. I think there's truth in that. I don't know that in our spiritual form we consciously said, I want to come to this place and experience pain and suffering. I don't think that's what we planned on. I think instead what we planned on is I want to experience myself as all of who I am. Well, part of the way that I create the experience of, or the mission, shall we say, of experiencing myself as all of who I am is by starting out by forgetting who I am. And that's kind of what happens. I came to this earth, I kind of forgot who I am. I even forgot the whole plan, by the way. I forgot the mission. And I spent the first 40 years of my life, trying to figure out what the plan was. And in the process of doing that, working hard to coming to the belief that I had to submit to what society wanted. I had to do everything that everybody else wanted. I had to please people. I had to give up all my own wants and needs. And in that process, what did I create? I did create pain and suffering. For me, for sure, but also for the people around me, because I was suffering. And it wasn't until I realized that and I started to come out of that thing, I had my major wake-up call, like Sarah was talking about, where I came to understand that the reason for my suffering has to do with the fact that I have denied the truth of who I really am. I gave it up. And now that I have reclaimed it and started living more fully in that sense of being who I am, I'm not telling you I never try to behave the way someone else wants me to behave, but I'm less and less of that and more of the authentic David. And the more I get into that authentic David, the more empowered I feel, the more connected, the more oneness, the more amazingness I feel. Now, if only I could have started out that way, who knows what my life would have been like. But I think all of this had a reason, maybe I wouldn't be so passionate about teaching other people how to connect with who they really are if I hadn't done that. Maybe I wouldn't be able to look at you, Christy, or you, Nancy, or you, Sarah, and say, I see that you are pretending to have forgotten who you are here. I couldn't do that if I hadn't learned that for myself. So I think that this whole soul empowerment thing is really about going through a little bit of a descent into unpleasantness, so that we can learn whatever lesson we came here to learn, so that we can rise up out of that descent and come back into the world and share our magnificence and our truth and our amazingness. That's what I think.
I think that when we did come here and we were tiny little babies, we did remember who we were.
Yeah, probably true.
And that's why we have such a what do I want to say? A pull, such a love for babies, because we see their true essence shining through. But then these programs, right, shut us down.
Right. And how many kids do you have?
I have 2.
Yeah, I have 3, and I know that I have put my programs on them.
Yeah. I'm sitting here thinking about as well, like, okay, I forgot who I was, or took on the sheltering and covering of the ego and people's, my parents' programming. Wasn't aware of that at all. Just assumed that was status quo, or I didn't even know to question. And then we began to do that, unfortunately, with our 4 sons. Not so much the latter 2. By that point, I had pulled out of the, funk and was beginning to move into that. But that is really, I think that's a fascinating freedom giving energy, for somebody that's like, wow, okay, well, you've given such great information and advice. Well, what am I, okay, where do I begin? Well, begin at the beginning and maybe list out all of these, some of the more frequent comments or commentary that you give to yourself, and just say, is this really true? Is it true that if I don't do this or I should do that, that I'm not living my life, or I'm going to fail or flounder, or maybe having permission to question the values and beliefs or programming. I think that's a big step, is knowing that you actually can step up and question and ask, that you're no longer able to, told to just keep walking forward, put your head down. I think that was a liberator for me, together with my husband, learning how to actually question with compassion, not like, oh, what do you, versus the ego way.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't beliefs. Yes, exactly.
I don't know if you were talking there, Christy, you were muted.
I just wanted to say, because Nancy said, looking at our beliefs.
Yep.
I love this.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, Sarah.
No, that's okay. I look back at my life, and if anybody ever said to me, if there was one thing you could change, what would it be? And my answer would always be nothing. Because I wouldn't be here right now doing what I'm doing. I wouldn't have the experiences, the knowledge from this lifetime, my working in retail, running pubs, etc., all the things that I have done work-wise and in my life, they have all been an important part of who I am today, and empowering the me that is here and who feels that they've found a good aspect of their life purpose. Because working in retail, when I've gone and done fairs and events, I know how to do that. I've worked in retail. I've worked behind a bar. I've had that communication with customers. I know how that works because of the experiences before my wake-up call. And then there was stuff that came after that as well. I think for me, it's never look back and think, oh, that was a waste of time, but also never look back and think, oh, I wish I'd realized this. I had 11 years in a relationship I should never have been in, but I was there for 11 years. And there is absolutely no point in saying, oh, I wish I'd known sooner, because I didn't. And you'll see it everywhere. You cannot change the past. So be grateful to those past experiences. If all they do is give you the courage never to get stuck again in a similar situation, that's really important. It helped me remember so much. And so even the bad stuff, the wake-up call, if it hadn't been for that wake-up call, I'd have never got out of my marriage, and the universe wouldn't have been able to fill that space.
Nice.
And so I think that's really important. It's suddenly being open to, actually, I do have elements of control. There are things it's time to get rid of in my life, and the universe abhors a vacuum. It will fill it.
Right.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that word, if you get asked the question, do you have any regrets or you misgivings or frustrations? And I would say in the past, I would have said, oh, if only I, if only I should have. And now, like you, I'm like, I'm not going, I choose not to say I regret or why didn't I? That's done. That was what, like it or not, whether it was suffering that put me there or joy or whatever that event or scenario or learning thing was, that I accept that was part of what was meant to be for me to be where I am. I feel regret's another, it was an ego word, right? I regret, I was like, yeah. So I've just, I got some information recently. I'm like, and I'm starting to go back to the old well-worn habit pattern. And I'm like, no, nope. I'm exactly where I need to be in a very good space of moving forward in the present. Then yeah, everything was meant to be as it was. The, quote, suffering, things that you can label as quote suffering or struggle or the easy breezy, anything in between.
Right. Yeah. I think that, so the idea of regret to me seems like a waste of time. Um, what it is, it's the ego living in the past and remembering all those past experiences and wallowing in the pain of those past experiences. It takes an effort, as I said, to allow the soul to speak up and say, well, look at all you've gained as a result of that experience. And that's really the beauty of doing this. But there's a problem there, and the problem is we get used to being in this space of the ego mind. We get used to it. It becomes our de facto or default place of living. It's comfortable. And when something is comfortable, we think we're afraid of change too. We have this belief that something different is going to be painful or worse than what we have right now. So we kind of accept what we have, we stay with it, and we allow ourselves to get comfortable in that space. Well, how is that serving us? That's the question that we can always ask ourselves. How does this current situation serve me? And there may be a way in which it really does serve me. Maybe it's helping me to learn something that I maybe don't see just yet. But it could be something that's just holding me back and keeping me from stepping into my magnificence. So this is where, a lot of people say you got to step out of your comfort zone. Well, people ask, well, what the hell is the comfort zone anyway? Well, that's the place that you find that you want to stay in because you believe that it's too risky to do something outside of that zone. There's a place, it's kind of like this energetic bubble around you that you think, this is my safe space, my comfort space. And yeah, well, maybe that's true. Maybe it's a good place to come to when you really need to regroup. But is that where you want to live? How much growth happens inside that tiny little bubble? So, and we need to think about this. And if we're going to fully empower ourselves and let our soul do its work, do its magic in the world, at some point, you've got to say to that comfort zone, thanks, I'm done. You've got to step out of the comfort zone. And I know that we talked about this before. We asked the question, well, what does it mean to be beyond the comfort zone? Where is beyond anyway? I remember Christy brought that one up. So where is beyond, Christy?
So lots of ideas are kind of flooding me at the moment. I might pass for a second just so I can collect myself.
Okay.
Because what's immediately coming to me is if we do see, we see the comfort zone because we don't want pain again, right? But the weird part of it is, or the expansive part of pain and challenge, is that actually our greatest opportunities are in the challenge. So if we just look at the challenge anticipating pain, then we miss looking at it looking for opportunity. And that's what I'd like to, I guess, encourage people to do, is to see that looking at the pain aspect of it is almost like shackles that are going to hold you back. Whereas if you can just step forward and realize that the logical mind may tell you, well, if I do this, then all these bad things are going to happen. But the logical mind doesn't always know where spirit and grace and synchronicity and blessings and all of those magic things that can happen are going to step in and shift everything.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, that's
Nancy, you were
a
going to
big
say
deal. I was just going to say the whole notion of the comfort zone kind of goes with the shoulds, or living externally and then slowly over time coming back into the essence of our soul. But that's a whole nother layer, thinking that we're safe in the comfort zone, or I don't know what else to do. This is what I know. Even like you said, it's that comfort zone is done. It's past. That is, I think, for me, I'm assuming for most others, we're in that comfort zone we're meant to be there for a little bit, perhaps, if ever, and then move out of that into another phase and another phase. The comfort zone notion, that's a big deal. I mean, I know I'm thinking of our own self, my life, friends and family, that we want to stay contained in the safety of the comfort zone when it's clearly time to move on. And as we said, we're not able to grow.
Right.
We really aren't. So I'm thinking of my own. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess that was what I was meant to have show up for me here today, is taking a look back and forward and moving from that energy.
Yeah.
The comfort zone, to me, it was in that marriage, and when the wake up came, and it was thinking about, we were living in parallel ruts, and mine was lined with rose thorns and his was lined with rose petals. And eventually my comfort zone got so uncomfortable, I couldn't do it anymore. And it was sort of some years later that the thought came to me that when we step outside our comfort zone, what we're truly doing is stepping back into ourselves.
Right.
And that really resonates, in respect that I then turned around and said, that's it, marriage over, I've had enough. And I had to go into me. I had to be true to me to do that. And so stepping outside the comfort zone is just stepping back into yourself, into who you are, to what resonates with you, what feels right for you, what you feel is good for you at that point in time. And having the courage to say, because we teach people how to treat us. And that's the shoulds, that's all this programming of, you've got to be like this, you've got to think about, especially for women, especially growing up at the time I did, and a little bit earlier than that, because it was very much that energy of women have to be the little wife at home. You have to do what you're told. You can't have a mind of your own to a certain degree. You're meant to be tied to the kitchen sink and have the kids. And I never had the kids. And I decided I wasn't being tied to the kitchen sink either in the end. But it was that power I gave back to myself by saying, actually, and how uncomfortable has our comfort zone got to get for us to say, no more, had enough, I am prepared to take the risk, and boy, it was a risk, to say, sorry, marriage over.
Yeah, that's a great.
That was a big one, because I had.
That's a great question, and I think that the part of the problem is, we stay in the comfort zone because of our belief. And Christy, you can put up your sign again. Our belief that to do otherwise is to create pain. And the reality is about 99% of this thing we call pain is completely imaginary. I mean, think about it. You could probably count on two hands the times when you have been really in pain. So the rest of the time, you weren't in pain. And the point I'm trying to make is most of the pain that we believe we experience is right up here. It's between the ears. It's imaginary. Yeah, sure, you can have physical trauma, you can break bones, you can hurt yourself. That is the kind of pain that is real. Yes, you can be mistreated by someone, and you can feel some sense of pain in that regard. But most of the pain, if it's not physical, most of the pain that you experience is your own story about it. Suffering is an option, really. You can choose to suffer or not. Something happens, you're going to have your internal reaction, your ego mind is going to do what it does, and that is going to be what generates most of the pain. If you can stay in a place of love and compassion, even when somebody is mistreating you, you will not experience pain on the same level. You might experience the physical pain for sure, but the emotional pain doesn't have to be there. And so consequently, what I'm really trying to say here is, if you can understand that most of what you call pain is just your ego mind doing its thing, and you can learn to quiet that ego mind and say, thank you so much for your perspective. I really appreciate that you're warning me about something that might be potentially dangerous, but I got it. I got this handled. I'm an adult now. I know how to deal with this stuff. If you can do that, then the idea of risk of pain kind of goes away, and the whole notion of the comfort zone goes away. The whole universe becomes your playground. So it's a choice.
That.
It all boils down to a choice. Yeah, okay, right. And I'm not going to tell you to stop feeling whatever you're feeling. No, that's not what I'm saying. Feel it, honor it, express it, and then let it go. Because if you don't express it, you're repressing it. So that's my invitation to people. If you want to be able to get outside your comfort zone, well, make the comfort zone go away on its own, just simply by honoring the truth of who you really are. That's what I think.
Can I circle back for a moment to?
Absolutely. As long as you don't circle us. No, never mind.
Yeah. And so I think part of what's required, David, for what you're saying is to be self-loving, is to be self-supportive. And if we go back to our kind of discussion about regrets, I didn't make this point, but I'd like to now. And that's that I actually have this little doll here that I use in my sessions. So if we think of ourselves, as these stacked beings, multidimensional, we've got, the baby self, all of these selves that are kind of lined up inside. And if there's one that's a little off kilter, it kind of throws everybody else off. So there's an expression by Rumi that the wound is the place that the light enters us. But the wound is also the place that takes the abuse when we say, oh, I should have done this. Oh, I should have done that. Because that part of ourselves that made whatever decision that was didn't have the consequential knowledge of what happened after. But we do. So we're judging this like totally different person almost. So I think that's another reason to flood ourselves with love when those regret thoughts come up, because we were doing the best we could with what we knew at the time. And if we can't be loving and forgiving to ourselves, who else is going to be? So we have to have that basis, I think, before we can do what you've just suggested, David, to just, just get out there, because we know that we are always going to be loving to ourselves, no matter what the shitstorm is that's happening around us, right?
I
Well,
think
that's beautiful. I really appreciate that. Yeah.
yeah,
Go ahead, Nancy.
I was going to say what you just shared, really, that would be, we always like to lay out on our shows. If there's somebody that's like just beginning their journey or beginning to have an inkling or bubbling up, what, I don't know what to do. I have no clue. Well, we always really, at the end of the day or whatever, in the midst of that, we do kind of know that we have the ability to begin to love ourselves. And it is a process. We're not really taught that a lot to love ourselves. We're taught to say, oh, self-love is selfish. We kind of have that weird messaging. So that's definitely the first step for being okay with struggle, getting out of your comfort zone, giving yourself permission, is to know that you are love, and you have complete permission to spend time learning how to have compassion and self-love for you. It's the essence of how we heal and can do all the work. If I know from my own journey, I was really disconnected from my heart chakra, which I know I can't wait for us to talk about that, but I was really disconnected from my heart chakra. So how could I care and love others when I didn't love myself? So that's a very large key, like David said, of using loving words and compassion. That begins the journey of all of the others.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sarah, you have something?
There was a thing shared on somewhere in the last day or two, and it's 5 things to remind yourself daily. I am lovable just as I am. I am good enough. I can do it. Positivity is a choice. I am grateful for every single day of my life. Positive energy quotes. And I love that. And I just thought it is so important, as you were saying, Nancy, about the loving of self. And no, we aren't taught it. And especially if you're brought up in a Catholic, going to a Catholic school and going to Catholic church, the one thing you're definitely not taught is about loving yourself. Right. And it's where it all starts, because for me, our soul lives in and resides permanently in love. So why shouldn't we love ourselves? It's about that reconnection to who we really are.
Yeah, getting connected to, our as I think you have said, getting connected to our true self, which that's another phrase that we sometimes use that people maybe don't understand. What does true self mean anyway? I just wanted to say though about these quotes. I love quotes like that, and Christy, you mentioned Rumi. Rumi is one of my favorite poets. I love reading his stuff. There's so many beautiful words out there. And the problem, and I call it a problem, because those words really only seem to land on people who have already done some personal growth work. If they're still stuck in their ego mind, it's hard to get through that armor, the castle that's wrapped around them. They might hear the words and they say, oh yeah, nice, thanks. But we somehow have to penetrate through the defensiveness of the ego mind to get the people who are doing this, who are listening to us, or maybe who aren't listening to us, but we'd like them to listen to us, to understand that they are the ones who have to make the choice. We can't do it for them. I can't do your work for you. I might be able to help you figure out the right kind of work to do for yourself, but
Or take a shortcut.
yeah. So quotes are fantastic, and I create them all the time. I share little nuggets of wisdom, and I do that because I have no idea who's going to see them, and I'm hoping that just that right person will see it and maybe contact me or something. And you never know. But as you say, Sarah, getting back to our true self, and that I really want to talk a little bit about that, because what does that mean, the true self?
I think it is that soul essence of love, that soul essence of, to me, there's like a level of surrender, trusting that everything is happening in the right time, that I'm not the architect here. There's a higher power that's orchestrating things. Even things that seem dark are serving the light, because when you're an artist, you can't show light in a painting without darkness. So sometimes we play the devil, sometimes we play the angel, because we're in duality. But I think that true essence is really love, light, compassion, generosity, all of those kind of yummy emotions, if you will.
Right. The true self is yumminess.
Yum. Oh my goodness. That is, I think that's such a large part of our life journey, is if we've never been taught to love ourselves, or we've gotten disconnected with the shoulds and the comfort zone and people pleasing. That's a big part of the process, is trusting and giving yourself loving permission to find the truth of who you are, with compassion, not looking at it as I'm going through this garbage dump, that you're digging through the treasure to extract who you always were. But that's a big deal. We're talking about this, I'm like, how many people are disconnected, thinking that they have, they're told to love everybody else, be kind, or or mind your own business, but we don't know to cultivate this loving relationship. And it's a journey. It's not a one and done. It's the more we uncover, the more we grow and begin to feel really comfortable and loving toward ourselves, so that we notice our self-talk isn't filled with "you did it again," all the negative stuff. That's a very big step. It's a journey, and it takes time, but it's something that is really that's the work we're meant to do, to move closer to our, move in synchronicity with our soul, or our come away from I call it the earth school things. That's a really powerful energy. I know, especially for me in my life, of learning that.
Yeah. And Christy, I think you're right about that. Your comment in the chat, we are taught that everything, God, universe, spirit, is outside of us rather than accessible within. Mm-hmm. That is a pretty consistent message of most religions that I've been exposed to. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that there are some religions that might. I remember one church I used to go to called Inner Light Ministries, and I think they kind of expressed this notion that spirituality and truth and love and everything are all accessible within. But within or without is really those are just constructs of the logical mind. Neither one really exists. They're helpful constructs to help us navigate the physical world, in the same way that here and there help us to move place. Hot and cold help us to understand some differences, but they're not necessarily opposites. They're just points along a continuum, So I think that if we can understand ourselves, if we can recognize ourselves as pure energy, pure spiritual God, universe, spirit, whatever you want to call it, energy, that happens to be temporarily focused in this tiny little physical form, tiny only in relation to, you know, the massiveness and infinitude of the universe. Well, then we can start to be aware more of what we really are and who we really are. And as you say, I think Chris, you say, and Nancy too, you said this, we are love. Love is what we are, and that's why we constantly are looking for ways to express love, to share love, even if we do it in a dysfunctional way, you know. And if you look around the world, most people are doing things in a dysfunctional way. But really, I believe almost all of us, every single one of us, is motivated by a desire to give or receive love. So
I've got to go. I'm really sorry. But I'd say to folks, please be true to you. Be honest with yourself. Don't judge yourself. And be honest with others. Your honesty may be what they haven't experienced and may be exactly what they require to move their own lives forward.
yeah.
Take care, be safe, stay well.
Bye, Sarah. Thank you.
So anyway, that's what I wanted to say about that. We got a couple of minutes left. Anybody want to add to that? Or
just as you were talking about, you know, hot and cold and right and wrong, the episode we did on bridging polarities came up, so people might want to check that out, because I will talk a little bit more about how even some of these polar opposite constructs can hold us back from, you know, our own peace.
Yeah, it's a great reminder. Thank you.
Yeah, David, if you want to mention, I know you've got a course that you're going to be teaching on Learn It Live, if you want to share that.
Yes, well, that's going to be starting on July 21st. That's a Thursday, and it's at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. It's called Grateful at Last, a guided tour to life's greatest gift. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be, this is kind of a year-long course. We're going to be doing one session per month with intermediate time spent on a Facebook group and, you know, maybe some Facebook Lives and stuff like that. But I'm really looking forward to it, because it really is a deep dive into this whole concept of life mastery and how we can get better at living our lives and becoming more empowered in being who we are. So I'm excited about that, and I'm offering it through the Wellness Universe as a donation-based course, so you can pay whatever you like, or nothing at all if that's what your pocketbook says right now. So yeah, thank you, Nancy, for mentioning that.
Yeah, because I'm going to be taking it, so there you go. I thought you better mention that. Yeah, or not. You should mention that. No, it's a good thing.
Well, so, let me see if I can find it. I mean, it's not on my instructor account, unfortunately. I have to.
It's not.
It's on the Wellness Universe account. Let me see if I can find it, and I'll just drop the link in here. Where is it?
I'd like to mention too, while you're doing that, David, that I have a podcast called Perspective Reboot with Christy Borst. So it's got some segments that cover really, you know, self-love and expansion and just kind of getting out of the more limited perspective of ourselves.
Right.
So people can find that on their favorite podcast channel.
I just put the link in the chat there. You can put your link in as well. And Nancy, what's this? You're doing this vibrant healing, I believe.
Yeah, I host a show on the second and fourth Sundays of the month. It's 30 minutes live. It's Vibrant Wellbeing with me, and Christy is going to be an upcoming guest on the show. We discuss all things well-being, physical, emotional, spiritual, and anything in between. And it's I think we're coming up on our 4th show. It's a lot of fun. It goes by so fast because we're 30 minutes. So
Oh, wow.
working at
I'm
that.
looking forward to that.
Oh yeah, I am too. Really, your topic is going to be amazing. So
Well, there you go, folks. We got some amazing people here doing amazing things in the world, and that's only because we have chosen to allow ourselves to be soul empowered. And we encourage you to do the same thing. That's what we're here to do. And so we share with you each month some different aspect of that notion of soul empowerment. I want to thank you for being here. We have the recordings of this and every other episode on my website at yourlifemasterycoach.com. So I hope you'll come back and join us again next time. All right.
thank you,
See you
everyone.
later.
Bye.